Joshua Mills. I'm a designer at Compulsion Games, and we're working on Contrast right now. And we're showing it to the first time to the public here at PAX. My first game, it's kind of ridiculous, is what I did was, in high school, instead of writing I was supposed to write an essay for an English report, and instead I took RPG Maker, which I know some people know what that is, and I made a little, I think it was like a 10-minute game that was timed for Jane, what is it, Jane Eyre? I think it's Jane Eyre, I could be wrong, somebody might throw that back in my face, but there's a sequence in the book that we had to read where she gets locked in this red room, and then it's like this really kind of Alfred Hitchcock thing where she describes all the detail a lot. So what I did was I made this little scenario where someone threw this little player character, threw her into this little room, locked her in there, and then there's really no objective. You're just stuck there because that's what happened to her. And then you can go over and interact with the window, and you start hearing the rain outside, and then quotes and stuff like that from the book would pop up, and then we kind of read that. So I did that, and essentially I lucked out because my English teacher was a huge gamer, and then we ended up playing Jedi Outcast online and stuff like that. But I mean, that was more or less where it started, and it's always been at the core of something I've done. And how that really influenced everything was, oddly enough, doubles back right to what I'm experiencing here, and we see when people get really excited about what you're doing. I managed to get this 40-year-old English teacher just to be all gushing over this little game, and he was like, I really didn't want to read another essay. This is kind of sweet. So the reaction of people is really what it comes down to, and it's the same thing. I experienced it when I was younger, and just to be able to do that for other people, it's huge. Making that little thing, that you can solve almost any problem with a little creativity. Again, simple cause, didn't want to write an essay, made a video game. But ultimately out of that was, you don't, as far as design things that at the time I didn't realize I was teaching myself, is you don't necessarily have to handhold a player at all. You give them a space and they'll learn how to adapt to it, and they'll start to figure it out. And that comes from playing a lot of older games and stuff like that. You see games now, there's a lot of tutorial stuff, and there's a lot of hand-holding. It's there for a reason. It is still an advancement, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to let a player have their own feel and touch into their experience. So that's probably the biggest thing, but I unintentionally learned. If you want to do it, well, for me, I can actually say this, in school, when I was in school, I went through an animation program, so I was an animator first, and then when I got to my final year, I kind of dropped all that stuff so I could just do level design. And if you really want to do it, your passion will beat out skill almost any day. And that's a bit of a ridiculous thing to say, where I was up, there was people in my class that were way more talented artists than me, but because of my passion, that's what was able to get me in my first job, where people are like, hey, you look really excited about this, and people still say that here and stuff like that. So don't think that just because maybe you're not technically skill set as good as somebody else that you can't do it. It's more if you've got the drive, it's that weird burning passion that nobody else can ever take away from you. Somebody can be technically better than you, but if you have that, it's like hope. Nothing can take away your hope, and nothing can stop you from keeping the try. And so that's kind of it. Don't get discouraged if other people are better than you. Just look at what they're doing, try to apply it to yourself, realize why they do it, and yeah, don't let the passion die. Because if you let that die, then you become jaded and you kind of lose the sense of why you do what you do.